what's the relationship between travel and sleep?
Okay, there are two things that we need to distinguish from each other. So the first is the journey itself and the fatigue that goes with it, whether or not you miss any sleep on along the way. So a good example of that might be flying from the UK to South Africa. That might be an overnight flight. You might arrive in not very good shape the next morning, but you won't be in a new time zone. So how you feel at the end of that flight really depends on what you do during the journey. Are you going to stay up all night? Are you going to enjoy the first class food and drinks and
assuming
so
we're in first class? What about the rest of us?
Or indeed, are you cramped into a very narrow economy seat between two large people, unable to sleep, children crying in the background, and so on? You might arrive in bad shape, you might arrive tired, dehydrated and uncomfortable, but that is not jet lag. So we need to distinguish between that and an entirely different phenomenon, which is when you start your journey in one time zone and a small number of hours later, 5 or 6 hours or 8 hours later, you find yourself with a time difference that either lengthens your day or compresses your day faster than the body is capable of adapting to. So we find it a little bit easier to lengthen our day. So if you travel from the UK to the US, let's say a 5-hour time difference for most of the year between London and the east coast of the United States, well, we have a natural daily rhythm which is about 25 hours rather than 24 hours long. So that's why most of us find it a little bit of a struggle to wake up in the morning. If you regularly wake up at 6 or 7 in the morning, it's a bit of a battle because your body really would like that extra hour in bed.
That's good to know. There's a real reason for it, other than being lazy.
So some people are early morning people and they don't find that so tricky. I imagine you must be one of those, Simon.
Well, I do get up quite a lot, but that's normally, and you will be fully aware of this, Pixie, the curse, or is it a joy of the really cheap, really early flights? I mean, it used to be in the olden days, and I'm going back quarter of a century here, when none of us could afford to fly anywhere. If you wanted to go back and forth to Ireland, you were probably on the bus. But now, if you're prepared to get up and be on the 6 o'clock flight, then of course you can get a bargain. But the trouble is, working backwards, 6 o'clock flight, so you've got to be at the airport 4:30 or 5. You've got to get there, so you're getting up 2 o'clock in the morning. Can I just ask though, Richard, why, since humans have been around for a couple of million years perhaps, why are we still out of sync with the cosmos? That seems weird.
Sort it out, Richard.
You're
I'm afraid it's just the way we've been built. There are lots of other things we could definitely redesign into the body. We could do without prostates and a few other organs that annoy us and aren't quite as well designed as perhaps they ought to have been. But that's the way it is. And if you shut people up in a cave, and people do experiments like this, where you remove all outside stimuli and let the body adapt its own natural rhythm, that's what you find, that for the majority of people it's on a 25-hour cycle rather than an exact 24-hour cycle.
And that's how Richard spends his holidays, in a cave.
So for that reason, doing the same journey but in different directions gives you a rather different experience. So for example, you can arrive in New York and adapt to an extended day quite easily, so you're effectively staying up later. But if you try and do the same journey in reverse, when it's bedtime, you don't really want to go to sleep. It's actually quite hard to compress the day and make yourself fall asleep when you're not tired.
So those effects, I suppose, that you get, the jet lag effects, what's the science behind those, Richard?
So with jet lag, what happens is that your speed of travel outstrips the body's ability to adapt. The body adapts to new time zones at the rate of approximately 1 hour per day of time difference. So bearing in mind, as I said, if you're traveling east, that's easier. It's a bit shorter, so perhaps 4 days rather than 5 to adapt to a London-New York journey, but certainly 5 hours to adapt back again. And the trouble is that the things that we come across in our daily lives differ in their ability to force us into a new time zone. So things like meal times or looking at your watch, these are signals to the body of what the clock time is. Your body doesn't respond quickly, so simply just adjusting your watch doesn't actually make you feel that it's midday. Simply having a meal set before you doesn't make you feel that it's dinner time or breakfast time. Those cues and clues that are in the environment take much longer to have an effect. So the fastest that people can adapt naturally without intervening, and I'll come on to that, but the fastest is about 1 hour per day. So if you're travelling on an 8-hour time difference, it typically will take you 8 days before everything is back to normal and you're operating at a normal local time. And during the interim, you will feel disorientated, you'll feel hungry when you shouldn't be, sleepy when you shouldn't be, wide awake when you shouldn't be, going to the toilet, all of the things that naturally happen in our bodies are really out of kilter, and that's hence the expression jet lag. It's the slow period.
Down, yeah.
And just to help people visualise, lots of places 8 hours away. So down the western coast of the US, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Vancouver in Canada, of course, and then in the opposite direction, well, pretty much everywhere, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, all 8 hours away. And all, of course, very accessible on non-stop
And if you're
flights.
going on a 2-week trip, you've got 8 days of jet lag one way, maybe 4 days feeling just about right, and then 8 days to adapt on your return.
That's why everybody fights on holiday, I suppose.